Hi, creative commuter. Whether you're listening to this episode on your commute, whether you're listening to it on a walk, which I guess is essentially commuting, if you're listening to it while sitting at home, cleaning the house, whatever it is, I just want to thank you for listening. It really does mean the world to me that you would listen to this podcast. And so I just wanted to start this episode out by sending a huge thank you and to all of the new listeners. Last week's episode featuring Jayati got so many new listeners, and I want to welcome all of the new creative commuters who are listening. I hope that you subscribe to the podcast so that you can get updates of new episodes that come out every Tuesday. I welcome. I'm so excited for you to listen and celebrate your creativity alongside of all of the rest of our group. So in today's episode, I considered not recording today's episode because honestly, I've been in a funk. Now, if you've listened to my podcast for a while, you know that I slide in and out of times like this all the time. It's totally normal, totally human, but I really was like, should I record something? I talked to my husband. I was like, I don't know. But then I thought, actually, this episode could help somebody if they might be in the situation that I've been, because I've turned a very fortunate corner in the challenges that I've been facing. We've all been on this collective journey together throughout COVID, throughout the pandemic, all through 2020 and into 2021. This entire thing has lasted so much longer than most people could have predicted, than what any of us hoped it possibly would. And we have just been plugging through, slogging through this whole thing together. And it's been different. It's been a different experience for every single one of us. And we have all handled it in really different ways and each had our own individual experience. And mine really at the beginning, I went into like hardcore, like, we're going to make this work mode. I'm going to be hopeful and optimistic mode. And that's just kind of the person that I am. When disaster strikes, I'm like ready to jump in and figure out how we can make this better. But it's so interesting because that's really, I stayed in that mode for most of it. And now I'm going through this really fascinating experience right now of, as I'm facing coming back to normal, like I've had both of my vaccinations and I'm so freaking thankful. Thank God for science. I got to see friends this weekend and we got to feel comfortable around one another because we're all vaccinated. And that, I'm so freaking grateful for that experience. But at the same time, I'm exhausted. I'll just be totally honest with you. I'm exhausted because of many things. And one of those being that I've picked up some hobbies that I love throughout this podcast, what you're listening to, being one of those hobbies, that one of those things that I've picked up during this experience, and I want to continue it. I've picked up this new thing and I had some space in my life for it and I want to continue it, but I also want to welcome back the joys of life before. And so I'm a little exhausted at the decisions that are about to have to be made. How do you make time in your life for all of the things that you had before and the things that you have now? And the truth is that you can't. There's only so much time and you have to make decisions. And if you're anything like me, making decisions about things that you love is really hard. When you love a lot of things, when you want all of the goodness, you want all of those good things in your life, how do you make decisions about which things you want to have? Well, a lot of us won't make the decisions. We don't make the decisions at all. And where do we end up? We end up in Burnoutville. It's a recipe. I feel like we are, a lot of people, myself included, if we're not already in it, we're headed for it. And especially if you are in living in a place where it's opening back up, where we're all about to go back to work, we're about to go into the office, and maybe you have already been doing these things, but a lot of things are about to shift. Even the places that you go, there's going to be more people. Like, we're just going to have more energy of other human beings around us all the time, and we just haven't had that in a while. Things are changing right now. And if we don't prepare ourselves a little bit and for that, we could end up very burnt out. And actually, it's possible to get burnt out on things that you love. And I actually do this all the time because I will just invite more and more and more into my life, and I'll go and I'll go and I'll go and I'll go until I cannot go no mo. And I don't know if you're one of those people, but if you are one of those kinds of people, now is the time to make a few decisions in your life. Now is the time, now, before it gets to the point that you're having to decide in the moment. Decide now, what are some of the things that you want to keep? What are some of the things that you would be okay with setting aside? What are some of the things that you do want to go back to doing? What are some of the things that you're like, nah, it's not something that I want anymore? Because otherwise, we're all going to end up in a troubled situation. So I actually made a decision this week. I've been doing the Creative Commute Facebook group, been going live pretty much daily for the most part for more than a year. I started it on March 15th of 2020, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. I absolutely love going live every morning. I love the people in the community, the people that join the daily lives, and we all have this wonderful collective moment every morning. I freaking love it. Love coming up with the challenges, love posing the challenges, but I decided that I need a breath. I need I have to make a few decisions, and right now I invited another new thing into my life. I'm taking this class and I really want to put my all into it, and so I was like, there's no way. I can't. I had all the signs. I had all the signs of burnout, and I realized I had to make a decision, and so I made the decision to not do the daily lives, to step back on the themes. And I might go back to it, but right now I just knew that I needed to take a step back and actually just allow and trust that it's going to be okay. That making that decision for myself, making that decision for the betterment of the community, because there's no way I could give my all, is for the betterment of all. And trust is my word this year. So I just have to trust. I feel like this is the right decision, and I just have to trust that that is the right thing to do. So if you have something in your life like this right now, if you're experiencing any of the symptoms of burnout, if you don't know what some of those symptoms are, that you might be coming up against some mental hurdles right now, if you might be taking on too much, I will list a few of the things that I personally experience when I start to hit burnout, whether it be creative burnout, whether it just be life burnout. If you're taking on too many things, the number one thing that I notice from myself is that I start putting off things that I would normally really enjoy doing. I start procrastinating. For me, that is the number one sign, because things that I enjoy doing, I will take it on and I will do it and I will go forth with all of the gusto. But when I start putting off those things, that is it's a red flag, but sometimes it's one that I ignore. But another sign is that I stop caring about the outcome of things. And that kind of goes hand in hand, I suppose, with procrastinating, because I kind of just stop caring whether I do it or not. And so that is another sign for me that something's wrong if I start not caring about the outcome of something. I've actually often gone back to this example of hair. That's how I knew that I was really getting burnt out on that career. Actually, I didn't realize it until way afterward, but when I stopped caring about the outcome of something, when I stopped caring about whether somebody would like what their hair looked like That's a huge sign. That's a huge sign if you stop caring about the outcome of something. So think about that. Is there anything in your life right now that you're experiencing that with? But another sign is just general tiredness, just fatigue, irrationally being irritable because you're tired, you're mentally tired, you're physically tired, you've got that foggy, fuzzy brain thing going on. Big sign, big sign that you might be heading straight for burnout. You might already be living there. You might have already set up residence and you're making yourself some burnout flavored mac and cheese. I don't know. You're like pouring the sauce on there. That is the worst metaphor. Just pretend I never came up with that one. So if if you are there, if you're experiencing any of that, I just feel like there just has to be so much of this. I can't be alone in this. It has to be that a lot of us now. I mean, opposite side of that, my husband is jazzed. He is such a people person. He loves people. Like this is like heaven for him that he's going to be able to be out and about more with people. And although I love that, I love people. I love people, but I'm also a little bit exhausted by people in person events like after parties. Like I'm so excited to be there. I'm so happy to see everyone, but afterward I need a day with a book to just chill afterward. And so if you're if you're one of these people, but actually even if you're somebody who loves being out with people, like just watch how much you're inviting into your life, because you can really take on more than you realize that you are, and then before you know it, you know where you're living. You're making the weird mac and cheese. And it doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste good. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that message today. And if it resonates with one person who listens to this episode, then it was worth it to me to come and share this message today, because we can end up we can end up just taking on the world because we want to. We want all of these wonderful things in our lives, but we also have to protect our own energy, and we are going through a very large energetic shift. So be mindful. Be mindful of how that is being experienced on your body, that you're giving yourself enough opportunity to rest and relax and do whatever the thing is that you need in order to rejuvenate your spirit. Just make sure that you are getting whatever that is for yourself, so that you can show up and really be that wonderful, creative, magical, shiny unicorn person that you were born to be. So, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I will see you in next week's episode that I'm so excited for. So, definitely subscribe so that you get a notification about next week's episode, because it's going to be awesome. So, I will talk to you next time. Bye.